free is most likely to work when your addressable market is absolutely huge and you're able to tap that addressable market. You're able to tap it and tap it well. So you've got like really strong top of funnel. So free works when you've got a huge addressable market, but then you've also got really kind of quick time to value in the product. And so you can get to something that's very easy to set up, and you've got that, you get to that first kind of magic moment really quickly.
Welcome to the Undefeated Underdogs podcast, where I unpack and narrate stories of ambitious people who turn obstacles into opportunities. My goal for this podcast is to create a platform to narrate underdog stories and maybe play a small, teeny tiny role in inspiring you. I intend to highlight the underdog mentality and make authentic conversations with people who play the long game, take action with a chip on their shoulder, and convert obstacles into opportunities. Buckle up, as I'll be bringing some authentic founders, VCs, community builders, and content creators who got underestimated their whole lives, and yet they beat all the odds to become insanely successful. Now, today I want to tell you a little bit about our awesome sponsor, Acquire.com. Selling a business is as tough as building a business. As someone who went through this process once, selling my own startup, I know the pain it takes to get to the end zone. This is where our sponsor shines. Imagine this. You're a founder who's built a solid SaaS product, acquired customers, and generating consistent monthly revenue. The problem is, you're not growing for whatever reason. Lack of focus, lack of skill, or just plain lack of interest, and you feel stuck. What should you do? The story I'd like to hear is, you buckled down, somehow reignited the fire, get past yourself and the cliches, and start working on your business rather than just in the business. You start building an audience, move out of your comfort zone to do sales and marketing, and in 6 months, you triple your revenue. The reality isn't as simple. Situations may be different from every founder facing these crossroads, but too many times, the story ends up being one of inaction and stagnation until the business becomes less valuable or worse, worthless. If you find yourself here or your story is likely headed down a similar road, I offer you a third option. Consider selling your business on Acquire.com. Capitalizing on the value of your time is a smart move. Acquire.com is free to list and they've helped hundreds of founders already. Go to try.acquire.com/Sharath and see for yourself if this is the right option for you. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Undefeated Underdogs podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys giving us the attention, your time, whether you are driving, whether you're cooking, or whatever you're doing. I genuinely appreciate everything you do and tuning into the show. Today, I have a very interesting guest. A fun fact about this guest, not a fun fact per se, but a fun story. I think 6 months ago, I met one of the employees of this person's startup in a community, and I invited her to our community, and we instantly connected. So big shout out to Abby for bringing visibility to Equals, the startup founder, Bobby Pinero. Welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
Thanks, Sharath. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and also a big shout out to Abby. Every startup needs an Abby. Abby's
correct.
She's the type of person that connects with our customers, gets things done across the whole company, is fully dependable, takes on anything and everything with the absolute best mindset. We're so lucky to have her. So big, huge shout out to Abby.
Big shout out. Yeah, that's when I kind of, for the first time, I got to know about Equals. And I'm like, this is so fascinating. You guys are building something so complex and make it so cool. That's the vibe I got when initially on the landing page, the comic design, and I love that vibe, and Abby kind of gave a great first impression. So big shout out to her. And of course, I've been kind of followed your launch on Product Hunt, and of course I supported and all that. And then I realized, you know what, let's bring Bobby to the show. I think it'll be a great conversation. So here we are. And for folks who doesn't know Bobby, let me give you like a brief intro. Bobby is the co-founder of Equals, and I love his mantra. I feel I want to elaborate on that, which is spreadsheet is king. A belief that fuels his dedication to delivering the best analysis possibilities via Equals, like a tool he wished it existed when he was doing I think analyst job 10 years ago. And man, I have to tell you this, Bobby, quite an impressive resume there. One particular stat I want to highlight is that when you joined Intercom, that time it was Intercom was like at 1 million ARR, and when you left it was 200 million ARR. That's incredible. Like from 20 employees to 700, that's massive. And you kind of led the whole financials, function of it and whatnot. And with Equals, you've raised like 23 million with A16Z, Craft, some of the biggest names in VC. Uh, so, folks, I mean, he's a Stanford grad, and I love everything that you believe and kind of like represent and express for the founder community. So, super stoked to have a chat. Right off the bat, I have this very obvious and curious question. This is your first startup with Equals, right? Before that, you were working at Intercom, and even before that, you were at I think as an analyst, financial analyst. So at IBM, if I'm not wrong. So it's kind of like a corporate to startup E, and you have your own thing. Why left like a comfortable, super cushiony safety net job, and why chase something so uncertain where you don't know what happens tomorrow, right? Like, talk to me about what kicked your butt and say, you know what, I had enough of this 9 to 5 gig. Even at Intercom, right? Like it's a super popular uh, brand in startups, right? So talk to me about it. Like, why did you left both of those jobs and started Equals?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I mean, I think I've reflected a lot on this, and hopefully, some of the wisdom I've kind of gotten from this is useful for folks. I like to, in hindsight, I like to look back and say, like, I had this master plan. Like, I moved from big company IBM to like another startup that was like 150, 200 people or so, and then I joined Intercom. It was 20 people, and then I started my own company, and it was
Right.
the whole progression was this natural thing of I'm just going into smaller and smaller companies. And there's some truth to that. I graduated and I went and worked at IBM, and it was, I don't even know, I was in the finance team there, and the finance team was like 10,000 people, which is insane.
Man, yeah, insane.
And you kind of quickly learn, you just learn kind of what you like doing, and you go through experiences, and you trust that every experience is the thing that you're supposed to be doing and you're supposed to be learning from. And you kind of just follow what excites you, what interests you, what is it that is, giving you the most energy and fueling kind of like, your creative passion. And so for me, as I worked my way into smaller and smaller companies, I just found that that's what I liked doing. I liked being in an environment that was fast paced, that was one where I had a lot of ownership and responsibility, where I had a lot of impact on the business, but then also one where more of myself got to kind of come through the work, if that makes sense. Like, I got to see myself more and more in my work product because I was closer to it, and I was closer to the front lines of it. And so for me, like when I was leaving Intercom, for example, there was a moment where I was trying to decide what to do. And the easy next step was I had lots of opportunities to go and join another Series A startup, 20 people, do the Intercom thing all over again. And in some ways that was I kept thinking to myself, okay, I can do it. I've done it already once. I know how to do it. I'll do it better the second time. Now I've got, all sorts of companies that want me because I have the Intercom experience. And so it's just this easy thing. It's a
You have the
natural
badge. Right.
Yeah, and it's what everybody was nudging me to. It was like every VC was like, "Hey, we want you to be the head of finance of our Series A company," or, um, you know, "You've done it, so it's a comfortable thing."
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was. I remember I had an offer letter from a great, great, great Series A company who's now gone on to become an absolutely stellar company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there thinking about signing the offer letter, and I just like a small part of me felt like it was dying. It was like just like a little, like I just felt like there was like this energy like leaving me. And then every time I thought about working on something like Equals, bringing something of my own to the world, I just lit up. It was like all my energy came back. It was like all this like passion and excitement just fueled through me. And so in some ways, like, yeah, sure, it's riskier. I remember getting on phone calls with people and they were like, don't take that, don't start your own thing, take the other job. It's way more secure. You're going to make way more money. And I was like, no, I can't do that. That like this, I need to follow the thing that gets me really excited, gets me energized. And if I do that, and if I make every decision in my career that helps me kind of follow that, I'll end up in the right place.
So it's kind of like if I'm understanding it right, there is a part of you who always wants to build for yourself, and like you said, the partly it's intention working at these companies gathering experience or badges for that sake of conversation, like Intercom as a credential on your resume and all that. And were you always like a builder, like in your Stanford days, like you want to like build something, create something, that type of a person? And if yes, I would love to like understand what have you done before, even like joining IBM. Like is there a builder part that's like now you're 100% builder, right? Like you're building this, you're hiring people, you're giving opportunities, you're providing value to some of the biggest brands like Notion and et cetera, using Equals. So talk to me about Bobby as a builder.
Yeah. I think we're all, I think we're all in some way, shape, or form kind of creators. And, the thing that I've learned about myself is that when I approach my work, not from a place of, hey, I want to build this company so that it's a multi-billion-dollar company and, all these accolades from an external perspective. But when I approach my work from, I want to create something that inspires people, that brings love and joy into the world, that helps people, that makes them better at their job, that makes them more confident in the decisions that they make. When they see our website and they get lit up because it's different and it's colorful and it's playful and it represents us, that's what makes me really excited. And when I bring that into my work, then everything else is like, I trust that everything else is going to kind of take care of itself. And so I think we all have that. I think that sometimes we lose that. It's really easy to get kind of sucked into, like you said, I need the badge. I need to work at this company because I need my resume to look a certain way, or I need to go to this school or do this thing. And no doubt that all obviously helps, but I think a lot about what is my intention behind what I'm doing. What is it? Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I want to help people? Because I want to inspire people? Because I want to create? I think that's in all of us. And then I think you can bring it into whatever job you're in. If you're a founder, obviously you're doing that in some way, shape, or form. If you're an artist, you're doing that in some way, shape, or form. If you're an analyst, you're doing that in some way, shape, or form, right? You're putting together a deck that's going to go in front of a team.
Right.
And your whole goal there is to inspire change within the company, to help people make decisions, to be creative about how you think through solving a problem.
Right.
And so to go back to my original days, before I started at IBM, I mean, I think that there was a part of me that was always kind of looking and longing for this way to express myself. And I've just been working my whole career to kind of get to maybe what is the next level of that.
Right. It, I think, is a beautiful way to unpack yourself, right? Like, you don't know what you want, and I've been in those situations as well, where uh, when I say you don't know what you want, that is, on paper we know what we want to be. Like, I think every human being has that capability to visualize, manifest, or like put themselves in a set of shoes where they see themselves in the future, right? I think on paper everything looks good, but I think we all have to have that courage to chase that. Like, I think that part is really tough. uh, Having clarity is also tough, but at least majority of people really know what they want in terms of either tangible or intangible. In your case, I feel, even in my case, I just want to, like, uh, how can we bring some sort of value to this world, even if it is 1%, that's fine, or impact. Like, I'm doing this podcast to just help one person. If this conversation, like, if someone inspires from Bobby, that's great. I became like a channel for that, right? So, and some have intangible outcomes. They want to become millionaires or whatever the shit, they like, the cars, big houses and all that, which is all good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think the courage to really chase who you want to be is tough, and I'm so glad that you've kind of are in that boat, which is amazing. In my opinion, it's an amazing position to be in. So uh, definitely kudos on that, on front. But the other thing I also want to talk about is, so Equals it was not like a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old company. It's very young. You recently started like 2 years ago, 2 3 years ago, if I'm not wrong. I think around 2021. In this macro economy, that's where I feel things started, like, around that time everything went down in a way. People are losing jobs, and startups are getting actually shut down and all that. Even till today it's happening. How did you actually took up, like, saying that, what, I will do it, like, no matter what? So where do you get that courage? uh, what is your source of that courage?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, the source of the courage is, you kind of just have to be comfortable. Like, the whole name of the game with being a founder is you have to be comfortable with not knowing. You
Mm,
have to, that was probably the roughest transition for me in the first 6 months after starting Equals. I mean, we'd been on this rocket ship at Intercom, and it
mm,
was so clear that things were working, and it was so clear that it was like, oh yeah, of course we're growing. We grow every month.
right.
It happens. Obviously more complex than that, but uh, then I started Equals, and you're like, is this going to work? Is it not going to
Mm,
work? What's going to happen? Um,
mm,
and so I think that the thing that where courage I think comes from is just being comfortable with the fear. And it's not that the fear goes away. It's not that you're not afraid. It's not that you're certain that it's going to work. It's just that you can I like to talk about like sitting in the desert. It's kind of like sitting in this like total unknown place where you're just like, I don't know that it's going to work. And yeah, the macro world around me is falling apart, and startups aren't able to raise, and VCs are hunkering down, and interest rates are going up, and SaaS multiples are going down. And oh my God, doom, 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 doom. And you just have to be comfortable with all the madness around it because you can't
mm,
control it. You don't know. And again, to me, it comes back to all you can control is that you're doing the best that you possibly can, and you're putting in the work. You're creating something that you think people want, that you believe in, that inspires you, that you hope inspires others.
mm,
And as long as you keep doing that, then I trust that things will work out.
mm. I love that. I love the fact that you have to be friends with uncertainty, right? You should not push it away. Actually, should welcome it. As a founder, like you said, you, especially in these situations, man, you have no clue what's going to happen in tomorrow, right? As we speak, there is actually a war happening in Israel right now. So not just related to business, freaking anything can happen in this world. Like we live in a situation where you wake up tomorrow, you see a war, like, that's the situation I feel as a human being as well. So I was thinking on this point, one of the biggest benefits of building or involving in startups is that you become a better human being, period. Because you, like you said, to your point, you welcome these uncertainties, you have to face that fear every single day, which will be like, a stepping stone to become a better human being, right? uh, I love that. And when you, so I want to cover two parts. One is the intercom bit. I'm so fascinated by the fact that 1 million to 200 million is a massive achievement, right? And we've led many things there. That's one piece. The other piece is why spreadsheets. So let's start with why spreadsheets. You could have done anything. You could have done like so many things with that credential, with that backup, with that experience. You can build like another fintech company or whatever it is, right? Because you have so much skin in the game. So why the heck you've picked spreadsheets, and why do you think you should reinvent spreadsheets?
Yeah, this was the question that every VC asked me in the very beginning. They're like, "Are you crazy? Do you know how many thousands of engineers Google Sheets have? Do you know how many thousands of engineers Microsoft have working on Excel? How many years they've been working on it? No chance." I mean, I met so many, even um, just like very well-known
Mm,
technologists that told me it wasn't possible. And I think a few things I'd say. One is it was the idea that was I just kept coming back to. It was just this thing that just, was like burning within me. And it was, I think in a lot of ways, there wasn't another company I could go and build. Like there wasn't another idea that was calling me in the same way that this idea was calling. And
mm,
it came from, it was almost kind of meant to be, where it came from all of my experiences at Intercom. And it was all the nights and weekends and mistakes I made fumbling around with Excel, fumbling around with Looker and Tableau and Mode and every BI tool out there and every notebook, and trying to learn Python and spinning up
right.
cron jobs on servers, on Mac minis, under my desk. It was like ridiculous. And it was all these things that I had to go through that kind of pointed me towards, hey, Equals is something that I
Mm,
wish had existed and I wish I'd had myself. And so um, in some ways, there wasn't another company that I could go and start and another idea that I could go pursue as kind of passionately as we have with Equals.
mm,
Um, but then I think that the whole thesis behind Equals, while it's like almost when we show people the product, so Equals is a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that works just like Google Sheets and Excel. All the formulas are the exact same. All the features, pivot tables, charts, everything works the exact same way. So you're in a tool that's already familiar to you. And the main
right.
benefits of it are that one, it's connected to all the places where your data lives. So
Mm-hmm,
Snowflake to Salesforce to QuickBooks to Google Analytics. And
mm-hmm,
then it's also connected now to all the places where your team works. So Slack,
mm,
Google Slides, things like that. And,
Notion, yeah.
and when you show people Equals, they're like, holy shit, this is so obvious. How does this not exist? This is like such a, like, why hasn't anybody built this so far? And I think
Right.
there's a few reasons why, but um, the main insight that we had, which I think is just so different from everybody else, is that the spreadsheet's actually right. And it's actually the
Mm,
best way to do analysis. Every meaningful business decision that I ever made happened out of a spreadsheet. It still does. And
mm,
this whole idea of trying to take analysis jobs out of the spreadsheet, whether it's via BI tools, whether it's through notebooks, whether it's through, more verticalized kind of finance type tools, they don't work. They don't work as
mm,
well as spreadsheets do. It's why people always end up back in one. And so
mm,
the idea behind Equals is, at its purest and simplest, what would it look like to build a spreadsheet that is not 16 years old and 35 years old, which are Google
mm,
Sheets and Excel? What would it look like
mm,
to build one that fits this generation's work?
right.
Um, and so that's it. Yeah.
I think the advantage of building or reinventing legacy tools like Sheets, uh, Excel is in the thing you said, like Excel Sheets, they won't integrate as fluently as into our workflows as Equals, right? I think that is the biggest advantage, and the convenience bit is more important in my opinion than when you're reinventing a product which has already existed in the market for 40 plus years. uh, so one curious question, it's a big bet, it's not like a simple bet that you've chased literally after coming out of Intercom. So have you had like any small bets in your mind, like, what, spreadsheets is one of them, I'll also try this, or is it like, this is bullseye, I just want to do this? And if in that case, two questions, right? Do you have small bets with Equals? If no, Equals is the one. The second question is like, did you start really small, or you went like, what, I'll beef up like right from day one or day zero?
Yeah, no other bets. I mean, I'm a all the chips on the table type of person. I'm all in with Equals. I think
Hmm.
that you can't build something as ambitious. I mean, we like remember when I showed David Sachs the first demo of Equals. He's like, "Holy shit! If you pull this off, this is $100 billion company," and it is. It's true. It's not as
Hmm.
ambitious a project as you can possibly take.
Hmm.
And that was the most positive reception. So many other people told me, "You're crazy. This won't work. You'll never get there." And
Right.
who knows? Maybe they're right.
Yeah.
But um, when you're taking such a big audacious bet, such a big audacious swing, I think you got to be all in. And so
Hmm.
I'm all in. No other bets. No other small bets. And then, sorry, the second part of the question.
So yeah, this is if it is a bullseye uh, situation where like, okay, right after Intercom, I want to do spreadsheets. That's it. Period. Did you start small, or how did you actually? I want to understand, like, as someone who's working at a $1 billion company to building your own thing. Were you starting scrappy? I think Ben is also like, co-founder, came from Intercom. So talk to me about the formation of Equals.
Yeah. Ben and I talked a lot about this, and I think we took a very different approach than I think most of the conventional startup advice.
Hmm.
We didn't take the MVP approach. We didn't take the start scrappy, start small.
Really? Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so when we came out of Intercom, when I came out of Intercom, we went out and raised money. We raised, we raised our $6 million seed
Hmm.
right out of Intercom, and we'd barely written we'd written a little bit of code, but not a whole lot.
Hmm.
And the intent there was, we actually think that there's a lot of, and this is a lot of, kudos to Ben for a lot of his kind of forward thinking and kind of challenging typical assumptions here. There's too much kind of like MVPing, and
Hmm.
we think that there's, how do I say this? We spent 15 months, 16 months building Equals, hiring a team, working on it, building a fully functioning product before we launched it, before we put it into anybody's hands. We were all in. There was no way, there was no escape. There was no, this thing is going to be something else. It was, we're going to build a fully featured spreadsheet before we
Hmm.
launch. And it's going to be ready for when the very first person gets their hands on it. And so many people told us, why don't you start in like one little small part of the spreadsheet? Or why don't you instead of building the actual spreadsheet, why don't you go and build like a thing that sits on top of Google Sheets and Excel, and maybe prove out the
Right.
use case and see that it works? But actually the thing that, how do I say this? Taking on people don't take on these like crazy, there are not that many crazy ambitious projects like this that people take on when they go and start a company. And so
Hmm.
in some ways, doing the full build is what made Equals special. It's like what when we launched it, it's what made it so different. It's what made it so new. It's what made it so exciting to folks. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll leave you there.
I think that's a very interesting approach, right? Like, we live in a world where people want to see, try it out, new things, and founders build conviction on top of customers, right? That's where they say, like, what, let's go all in. Is it because, two follow-ups there? Is it because you've raised money, you feel confident that we can pull this off? Is that the thing, or is, like, what, I'm not, nothing about the money or funding, I want to freaking build this in the right way, and you felt like doing a full size product is the path?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a combination of both, but more so the latter. It was, hey, we know that the way that we stand out, the way that the way that we actually get to see whether or not this works is if we build the full spreadsheet, and if this thing is actually what we want it to be, not
Hmm.
a um, a small version of it. Or look, the thing that we're trying to replace is our Excel and Google Sheets, and the bar for that is so insanely
Yeah.
high. The thing, when people talk about a spreadsheet, I think a lot of the places where people go wrong here is they actually, um, they try to build a spreadsheet, but they try to build an MVP type spreadsheet, and they're
Hmm.
just that's not what people want. The expectation again is so high, and so for us to really see whether or not this was going to work, whether or
Hmm.
not the idea for Equals would be valid in the market, we had to build the full thing.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we weren't going to get that signal. And so, it's kind of, there are two different types of startups. And, we talked a lot about this with the team early on. There's kind of the MVPE type, the YC type startup where, a good example here might be a company like Vanta. Vanta, you can build a really scrappy MVP. You're trying to
Hmm.
automate the SOC 2 process. So you can probably build like a really simple web app that takes in some certain components and automates
Mhm.
some part of the project management cycle. And you kind of iterate and cycle your way through adding more and more to that. But
Hmm.
you've found a problem in the world where there's not a current software solution for. And so you can
Hmm.
kind of like bite your way through parts of that problem.
Right.
Vanta would be like, but the issue with that is it's easy to get started, but it's also easy for lots of folks to get started. So that's why Vanta has so many different
Sure.
competitors. That's why there's so many SOC 2 automation companies now.
Right.
Then you get the other side of the spectrum, which are companies like Equals or companies like Figma or Notion,
Hmm.
where those companies took a ton. It's a huge product to build,
Hmm.
ambitious product to build. And those companies take years and years and years to build. But why is there not another Figma? Why is there not? Because it's so hard to build.
Hmm.
And so you kind of have to build it all. You have to build, the full product for it to be useful, for people to want to use it. It has to work exactly as people want it to work. And so, but that then becomes your moat if you build the full thing.
It's also interesting. I feel what I'm understanding is that when you're reinventing an existing industry, in this case spreadsheets, in that niche, uh, going with an MVP can be seen as in like a quick move, but you won't penetrate into the market with command, right? Another example that comes to my mind is Niva, this search engine. They started as a search engine competing with Google, and they didn't do the MVP route. The founder Sridhar is a good mentor. He said, "Now, so we're going to raise money, backed by Greylock. We're going to do this in the right way, build the full fledged platform, and then, they launch." So they took a ton of time. I feel the two routes. I feel there is no. I think you have to pick the route according to your situation. There's no right or wrong, in my opinion, right? But my curious thing is, in both cases, failure is non-negotiable, right? Either you're doing MVP, you can fail. You're building, taking time, full-fledged product, fail. So I always pick this route. I was never in this bucket like what you were in. I wish I was, probably in the future. But I was always in the bucket of like doing things in the small scale, understanding from a user, customer, and doing things what they want, right? Like iterate, and then move forward. So talk to me about how the iteration works when you are doing things for yourself. So you still show it to potential customers, or take feedback and then build, or you just have this gut feeling that you build up a roadmap, hit it hard, attack, and make it perfect.
Yeah, I think the advantage that I have, and I don't think I could do a full build, like a what we call like this full build startup, um, were it not for the fact that I have done the job and I've been the person that I'm trying to sell to. And so a lot of what guided our early iterations was just me knowing, me having
Mm,
done the job, me having been that person. And so I'd sit with Ben, my co-founder, and then the rest of the Eng team, and we'd look at designs, and we'd dream up ideas, and how should data sheets work? How should connections work? How should scheduling work? How should all these things? And a lot of that was
right.
just informed by, I've lived in these tools for 10 years. And
Mm,
so we did do some, I would get on calls with folks and show them Figma prototypes and mock-ups and things like that, and try to get feedback. Uh, and some of that was useful. It's also just really hard to take feedback though when somebody's not paying you for it, when they're not
mm,
actually using it. Like you get a lot of, oh, it'd be cool if it did this, it'd be cool if it did that, and then you're like, yeah, that would be cool, but is that actually useful, and is it actually something that you want, or is it something that you're just trying to kind of build up ideas.
mm,
um, and so for me it was a lot of just following my own intuition. And Ben also, um, Ben was Intercom's head of growth, so he had a lot of he did a lot of early analyses. He and I worked together very closely, so a lot of it just came from us.
mm. That's a very, I would say it's a very different path to what I generally hear, right? So I love that.
But I couldn't do
Glad
that.
it.
Just to be clear, I couldn't do that if I was going out and starting like um, like a crypto company or something, like
Mm,
something that I have no experience in, or if I was going out and
right,
starting, trying to build the next Figma, right? Like I would have no
right.
idea. I'd have to be sitting every day talking to folks and iterating, and probably starting small, because I don't have a grand vision for what it should look like, because I've not done the job. And so
Sure.
the thing that I come back to is I am the person who I'm selling to. And so
Right.
that's given me a huge advantage, not just from a product perspective, but also from a marketing perspective, from a content perspective. Um, that's been it's just been a huge asset for us.
Absolutely. I think we have to build products for ourselves, right? Like it's already hard to build something from scratch, and if it will be even harder if you don't know the persona you're building for. That's like that's like shooting in the void completely. Like at least doing something for yourself, you will use it. Probably your friends who are in the same bucket will use it, and whatnot. I think that applies fundamentally. That's like the default state. Build something for yourself, and empathy. You will have that empathy, you will have that inside knowledge, skin in the game, very much compared to doing something else. I think the other school of thought I want to mention is, I think in the iterative approach of building MVP, talking to customers, there is a chance to build in public, right? Like you kind of narrate your story. So in your case, have you tried that, like in that 16-18 months doing things in public, exposing these Figma prototypes? How did you kind of thought about like doing things in public?
We were very we were not public at all about what we were building. Equals was a mystery to almost everybody for the first 16, 18 months. The thing that I did do, so we didn't share prototypes, we didn't share screenshots of the product, nothing. And that added a bit to the suspense of our public launch, which, once we did, went really well. But the thing that I did do, knowing that our audience were folks like me, was I wrote a lot. And so I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer. So the things that I didn't have a lot to do in the first 16, 18 months. I mean, I had to hire, I had to help the team kind of stay on, give feedback on product, talk to people. But then the other thing I did was just write. And it was a lot of just writing letters to myself. It was writing letters to Bobby 10 years ago of like, what do I wish I had known in my career? What do I wish I had known from a finance perspective, from an analytics perspective? And
have you released them, or is it?
Oh yeah. All our early blog. So raptext.equals.com is our blog. So I wrote, a post a week on raptext for the first 16, 18 months. And we got so much inbound interest from those, just people signing up for our wait list for Equals. Nice. Ended up having just conversations that would then turn into customers to turn into, leads for us down the line. And so it was that was me just starting to build a reputation for Equals as a place of knowledge and credibility. And so that was my early job. It was not about Equals specifically, but it was about how can I go back to this kind of intent of like helping people, inspiring people. How can I just take what I've learned and make it useful for others?
Love that. I think you basically have to do the things where you find insanely strengthy, or like you have that strength in you. I think in your case, it's writing. You basically have to do anything that moves the needle, right? Like, not need to be. Building public is so popular these days, and everybody stumbles because they copy others. Because someone else is sharing their numbers, I have to share these numbers as well as a founder. And a lot of times they don't work because they're following other people's playbook. I love the fact that what you mentioned, you followed your intuition, gut feeling, and your own intention, right? So I love the fact that I think people should realize that more than anything, and play your own strengths. Let's talk about your popular blog post, which I read, and I think that actually really helped me as well to understand how to do pricing and all that. And you said freemium actually almost killed Equals, right? So talk to me about the before, the during, and the after. Like before, it was on waitlist. You launched on Product Hunt. I was there to support. Kudos on getting Golden Kitty too, by the way.
Thank you.
And so yeah, talk to me about the whole transition. What can you advise founders when they are struggling? Pricing is such a struggle, Bobby. Let me tell you that I've struggled so much. I didn't build like huge companies, but I did a couple of SaaS products. Even then, it's a struggle to actually find that right, signal. So talk to me about that pricing, how you think about pricing, what advice do you give, and the before, the during freemium, and the after.
Yeah. I mean, pricing is hard. It's just hard, and it takes a lot of iteration. It takes a lot of different experimentation and trying different things. I think in general, people underprice. That's just a bias that folks have. And so I've always found success when I've kind of challenged myself to increase prices. And this goes back to the piece too, adding kind of healthy friction into your onboarding process tends to, in my experience, has only tended to kind of improve. But the story with Equals is really simple. We launched Equals. We took a superhuman-y type approach to kind of onboarding folks at the beginning. So you had to sign up for our wait list. Then we manually onboarded all of our early customers. That really helped us. One, we knew the product was still kind of buggy and there were some issues, and we wanted to make sure people were set up in the right way. We wanted to make sure we understood what people were trying to do with
Mm-hmm.
Equals, and that we could really solve that use case as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
them trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we went through that approach for a while, and that got us to our Series A, which was awesome. And then it was a moment where we said, hey, we put $16 million on the balance sheet. We've got almost infinite runway now. We feel like we can take a really big bet. And there was this kind of pull for, we looked at a lot of the kind of darlings of SaaS. We looked at Notion and Figma, at Airtable, and we said, hey, those folks have a free version of the product. They're a little bit consumer oriented. Equals, we're trying to build the next spreadsheet. Everybody needs a spreadsheet. We should be free too. And so we dropped prices. We introduced a free tier. We moved some paying customers over to free. We slashed our ARR pretty meaningfully. And we tried to make this free experiment work for 6 months, 8 months. And the thing that we learned was, you just saw it across the board. It was like everything was worse. It was like people weren't activating in the product. People weren't as engaged. The rate at which people then ultimately became a paid customer, way down. And I think it had to do a lot with the kind of the seriousness and the inertia that somebody had when they were getting into the product. When they saw it was free, it was like this little toy that they could tinker with, and it was this like, oh, cool, Equals, yeah, okay, I've seen it. Let me just jump in and let me try it out. Okay, I'll come back to it. It's free. I'll just come back to it. As opposed to, after doing that for about 6-8 months, we then reverted back to, we're not like the superhuman style. You can still self-serve Equals, but we do require you to put a credit card in up front, start a trial. You get a 14-day free trial. And then for a lot of folks, we do also put you through kind of a, have you talk to somebody on the team here, because there are more, intense kind of, not intense, but just involved onboarding processes. But as we started to introduce more friction again, we just saw way more folks doing the things that we actually wanted them to do to be successful with Equals, connecting a data source, building their first analyses, sharing it with their team. And it's the motivation of, I've got some skin in the game. I put my credit card in. I know I'm going to pay for this. I know in order for me to see the product, I've got to sign up for a plan. And okay, well, I signed up. Now let me actually go through the process of picking a data source, connecting it, and maybe spending 10 minutes to build my first analyses. You're just much more able to harness that momentum with a user. And so my advice to founders, I guess, here would just be, follow the thing that's working in your business. It's really rare to find something that does work, and follow that. And also know that I'm really grateful we did the free thing. I'm really grateful that we did it. It didn't work, because now I'm not thinking for the next 5 years, Equals needs to be free, Equals needs to be free, Equals needs to be free. That I know would have been bugging me. We had so many discussions about that at Intercom because we never tried it. And it was always too scary to try because it was too much revenue at risk. So I got it out of the way, got it out of my system. But you just have to try things, and you just have to kind of follow the metrics, be willing to make mistakes, see what you learn, revert, or double down on things that are working.
I think more friction means more serious people. And when you have more serious people in the buckets, you can upsell a lot of other things because they're already bought in. You don't have to sell them. It's tough, right? It's not a piece of cake that, it's not talk. The walk is really tough when you add more friction to it. And I think going back to your point of having that courage to face the fear, I think it applies here as well. You just have to live with the fact that you won't be encouraging or attracting masses. You'll be having a hand chunk of people, set of people, and your focus is to like nurture them, provide value to them, build products, features to them, and eventually I think, yeah, it's a debate, right? Like, a lot of SaaS founders, they just go through this battle back and forth, back and forth. I think your point, trying is more important than finding a perfect solution, because in the process of trying, you just find it what works for you. Yeah, I think I wanted to ask one thing about the same flow. Were you like kind of, so what are the disadvantages of not going freemium in your opinion, right? Like, we all know the pros. And do you suggest, because it's a complex product, in- attracting serious buyers makes sense, versus for a very simple product you can try freemium and actually live with the cost?
Yeah, I think that and I wish there was a really simple kind of framework here. And I think the simplest thing I could come back to is kind of free is most likely to work when your addressable market is absolutely huge and you're able to
Mm.
tap that addressable market. So an equals fits that, right? Our addressable market
Right.
is absolutely huge. And you're able to tap it and tap it well. So you've got like really strong top of funnel. That's something that I think is hard to create, but is true for companies like, you know, Notion and Figma and Airtable. Like they were really good in the early days at building up, getting people to come to them. And then I think it's also free also works. So free works when you've got a huge addressable market, but then you've also got really kind of quick time to value in the
Mm.
product.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can get to something that's very easy to set up, and you've got
Mm.
that, you get to that first kind of magic moment really quickly.
Mm.
And for equals, that's I think where we struggled, because equals is, you have to, and it's also intercom, right? Like in both cases you have to do some sort of like technical installation. So with intercom, it was you had to put the JavaScript on your website,
Mm-hmm.
and with
Mm-hmm.
equals, it's you have to integrate some sort of data source.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then with equals, it's like once you have a data source integrated, you have to go and build an analysis. You have to get something, you have to pull some data down and do something with it. And that could
Sure.
take 10 minutes, it could take 2 hours, depending on the type
Right.
of thing you're trying to do. And so when people don't have skin in the game, it's just hard to get them to go through that entire process.
Right.
So that's kind of my like very, very, very simple framework. And again, free works for lots of people. Like, I think Loom just got acquired, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
free was a huge part of their early success. And
Right.
um, but again, that's like a really massive market, really simple product to get started with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree to your point. I think getting many users will help scale the company in many ways. But if the product makes sense to do that, if the product is not willing to do that, then encouraging more users to just sign up and sitting there doesn't work. So I'm glad that you kind of experimented all that, and I really appreciate you sharing the whole journey with us. A couple of more points before I want to tap into your intercom brain, the thing that excelled, 200 million dollar revenue and all. So one is regarding to equals. uh, Spreadsheets are a crowded market, right? It's not like there are only two big players. It's not monopolized. There are like so many options. People tried so many times, and even now I feel Airtable is one of the players in the market that are appealing to consumers, right? uh, Talk to me about like how you handle competition. How do you sit with these names and players, and yet find the niche? Because I know I kind of sense your answer, because you're doing things for yourself, you're finding a persona uh, in others. but I want to learn about like how you think about it.
Yeah. Well, there's many different use cases of the spreadsheet, and this is like what we always come back to is so like the spreadsheet can be used for Excel specifically can be used for and has been used for so many different things. Excel is at times it's a financial modeling tool. At times it's been a database. At times it's a project
Sure.
management tool. At times it's a
Right.
calendar. At times it's a to-do
Right.
list. It's just there's so many different use cases of Excel and so Airtable, Smartsheets. I'd argue like Coda and Notion are versions of this too. Have just picked use cases of the spreadsheet and built massive companies out of them.
Right.
So Airtable, for example, is the spreadsheet as a database. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like Smartsheets is the spreadsheet as a project management tool. Retool to a certain degree is like the spreadsheet is like an application for a company.
Yeah, internal applications and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Coda and Notion, I'd argue, are like the spreadsheet meets the doc type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The workflows, internal team workflows, yeah.
And so what Equals is Equals wants to be, and this is where there's nobody else, like, BI tools have kind of tried to take parts of this. Like BI tools are like the spreadsheet, but like the automated graph.
Right.
Equals is the spreadsheet for analysis. Like it's taking that job, which is very different from what Airtable is trying to do, which is very different from Smartsheets, which is very different from what Coda and Notion are trying to do, very different from what BI tools try to do. It's we're going after the job that is, hey, this is a spreadsheet as a tool that you use to analyze your business. Equals will be the best tool for that.
How did you end up in that? Like again, when you feel about spreadsheets, why analysis? I think because you've done so much in the past that made you appeal, which is very fair. Anything else that drive you, like, what, this is the sweet spot? How can you find a sweet spot when it is so much crowded with so many use cases? As a founder, what advice do you give for other founders?
I mean, it was partly my own experience. It was like, hey, yeah, like I lived in Excel doing analysis for Intercom for previous companies. And I was like, there has to be a better way than this. Like, I wish that Excel could do the things that now Equals does. And so that's where it kind of came from. And then it was also not just living in Excel, but it was also living in BI tools and being like, oh my God, I could do this 10 times faster if I could just use Excel. But then Excel has these shortcomings. And it was like, all of a sudden, you started to kind of see this, like, it was just like, man, I wish I could do this way. I wish I had a spreadsheet that could do this. And that was it. Then the idea came, and it wasn't like this outside in view. It wasn't like, okay, let me go analyze the market and say like, okay, let me break down, this is a job that BI tools do. This is a job that Coda does. This is a job that Airtable does. It wasn't like anything that I just articulated. That came after the idea. That came in my explanation of what Equals should be. It was, I wish I had a tool that did this. Oh my God, that would be amazing. Hey, Sally, wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, oh my God, I wish I had that too. And then it's like, okay, why does this? Then you start to put it into the world and you kind of fit it into these categories. That's how it happened for me, not the other way around.
I love it so much because I love the story of Equals. In a weird, different way, all the things you said, I hear that back and back with many SaaS founders, but they're not ambitious. They're not ambitious projects. I'm not judging anything. I'm saying that you've had a gut feeling about a huge opportunity. So just want to acknowledge that, like,
Thank you.
because that's very rare. Like it's Sridhar thinking about search in terms of privacy lens, like about Niva. Like Niva is all about privacy. You own your data. You're not selling any data of, just like Google does, and all that. Like you're not exposing your data, right? That is very fascinating. And I just want to, like, I wish we hear more of these stories, like taking big bets coming out of a gut feeling, right? Like it almost feels like Apple took a big bet on on mobile, right, when nobody's else like looking at it, right? So just want to say
Thank
that
you.
it's amazing to hear that.
My
uh,
philosophy on that is if you're going to put all this work into it, might as well just make it as big a bet as you can possibly make.
right, yeah, exactly. Talk to me about the funding. 6 million, 16 million seed, Series A. I think Series A you have an advantage. You have product, customers. How do you advise people to go from uh, seed without a product? Number one, how did you end up being that $6 million mark, like as a seed round? Do you have like any calculations? Like do you take runway as a metric? What is your thought process of going funding?
Yeah. Well, for the seed, it was really simple. It was, hey, we know we have all this. We basically set out a product roadmap. We said these are all the things we want to build. Then Ben and I sat down and we said, okay, how many people do we think we need to hire to be able to build all this in the next 18 months? And it was a very high level guess. And then we said, okay, in order to do that, we think we need $4 million to be able to launch the product, and then to give ourselves a runway to get enough traction to get to a Series A. And then we ran a process to go raise $4 million, and we ended up with 6.
Mm.
And the thing that I'd say on the seed, because I think a lot of people will say, like, how did you go raise that much money without
Yeah.
a product? My fundraising started 8 years before I started Equals at Intercom. Like, that for me
Wow.
was, and look, I wasn't doing it intentionally or explicitly, but it was my time at Intercom, and Ben's too, where we did exceptional work. We helped build that company from, Ben was Intercom's first employee. I was their 20th employee. We helped build that company for 8 years. And so being in the trenches, I was in every board meeting. I was in every fundraising process. I, helped Owen we raised over almost $200 million over the course of 7 years. And I got to know investors as a part of that. I got to build relationships with them. And so part of the fundraising journey for Equals started from all the relationships and all the credibility, and all the experience that I got to build at Intercom. And that's how we were able to go and raise that. I promise you, there's no way that me coming out of IBM could have gone and raised a $6 million seed. It just wouldn't have happened. And so that's our story, and that's kind of the way it worked out for us. It wasn't like I showed up with it. I mean, I did. We put our seed deck is public, so people can go and look at it. But it's not like, that was it. That was what got us the seed. It was all the years before that and the relationships that we built up that enabled us to do that. And then the Series A is, like you said, it's all about just traction and, can you tell a credible story of the future and how the business starts to build? And we can talk about that, but that's a very different kind of, it's very different fundraise.
Yeah. No, I feel agree. I think it looks like you can fundraise based on credibility, and it won't happen over time. It requires a lot of time and relationship building. And the common theme I find it among founders is at least like some folks, they raise on promise, saying that they show the promised land, this is where we're going, and the conviction. And some folks, they raise on like actual clarity, like, hey, we have this much, we want to go this, and we need money to go from point A to point B. But yeah, every story is different, right? That's why it's special. I think, yeah, I know we're kind of on time. We have a couple of more questions on Intercom. How the heck, Bobby, how the heck you did took Intercom from 1 million to 200 million? I want to spill all the secrets. I would love to like get into details. Like, that's a massive feat, by the way. 8 years, 200 million, it's like so huge.
Yeah.
that itself shows like, how credible you are, right? So what's the secret like for scaling, launching? I think you've talked about it. uh, kind of growing, we talked about it, but scaling is a different beast. So talk to me about how you scale, from how you did with Intercom, and what advice you give for founders when they think about scaling their businesses.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe the first thing I'd say is just like there was a certain, there was just so many amazing, amazing people in the early Intercom days. That's what did the 1 to 200 million. It was
Mm,
this like magical chemistry of a bunch of brilliant people at
mm,
what they do across product, across design, engineering, marketing, sales, um, finance, analytical, special kind of early group of individuals. And then on the scaling side, the thing that I always and you always I find a lot of founders and a lot of like early operators kind of fall into this trap is you think that it's just going to get easier. You think like,
mm,
okay, I'm going to make this next hire, I'm going to do this next thing, and it's going to get, and that's going to take this problem away, but you don't know the 5 other problems that's going to create, or the other headaches that it's going to make, or the, you're going to go raise, oh wow, we're going to go raise a $30 million Series B and it's going to be incredible. And then, oh my God, imagine all these people we'll be able to hire, and then we'll be able to build all the things that we want to build. And oh, it's going to become so easy. The market will just, revenue will just boom. And,
Not easy.
you're like, you sit there and you think all that stuff. And then you raise a $30 million Series B and you're like, oh my God, what have we done? We've like taken all this responsibility and now we have these massive targets in front of us. And oh my God, we have these huge teams that we have to get to perform, and the teams aren't, they're not working together well, and they're arguing and this and that and blah, 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 blah. So
So
you
more
change.
money, more money, more problems, right?
Yeah, Biggie said it right. Exactly. So you trade certain set of challenges for other challenges. And so there's always
Mm,
this feeling like things are going to get easier. They're not. Your job changes and you just have to adapt to it. And you kind of have to throw away, you kind of have to become a new version of yourself at different stages. And it just is
mm,
adapting to what the company needs. And so, as an early leader in the company, like in the very early stages of the leader in the company, you're just doing, and you're leading
mm,
by doing it. And you're showing people, this is how it's done. I'm going to do it. I'm pushing forward. We're launching this thing. I'm doing it. I'm putting the tweet out. I'm doing the thing, and blah, 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 blah.
mm,
And then after that, it becomes, okay, now my job becomes discerning great, great talent. How do I find people that are better at the thing that I'm doing?
mm,
And how do I convince them to join? And then make sure that they're excited about what they're working on. And then after that, it becomes, okay, how do we not just hire individuals, but then hire teams and organize those teams? And you become a different type of leader, and you
right.
approach your work in a different way, and you spend a lot of your time just making sure that you're communicating back to the teams where they need to go, how they need to work, empowering people across the teams, opening up lines of communication. Just a very different
Mm,
job. But you kind of just have to go through it to like, you just have to be willing to like shed that skin at every stage. And it starts to you'll feel it when it's happening, because you'll feel like you're working in one way and it's not working anymore. You're working in like the
mm.
way that you were working, and it's like you're hitting your head against the wall, and it's the team's not responding to it, or it's not working the same way that it was working before. And so you just have to kind of find those moments and adapt.
It's so amazing. I think just to summarize, you have to go from doing to delegating, right? Like at some point, you won't be doing any of the things that you wish you were doing before. You were more like finding people, incredible people who actually do things on your behalf. I think I love the way you actually projected the phases. What really worked at Intercom that you are right now implementing at Equals? Again, scaling bit.
um a bunch of things. I mean, our whole, the way we build product, the detail that we put into the product, the design forward nature of who we are, um, the way that we develop content, the way that we market. We always lead with the product. I mean, you'll see if you go follow me on social media, or you go follow Equals, what you'll see is screenshots of the product, videos, demos. Like everything we do is product centric, and that all comes from our Intercom DNA. Like that's what we did at Intercom. Um, and then internally we have a lot of similar traditions. We're constantly shipping. We're shipping updates to the product, tens of times a day. We celebrate shipping really quickly. We do demos every Friday across the team, so people stand up in front of the company. And this is something we did at Intercom too, and showcase their work, show what they built. In your first week of joining Equals, you're expected to demo something.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
so a lot of those kind of early traditions from Intercom we pull into Equals.
The culture within Equals is so kind of collaborative, if I'm not wrong. Of course, at the end of the day, you're creating a collaborative tool, so you have to you have to encourage that culture. What worked really well out of the team, like that when it comes to scaling, especially at Intercom? What can you share some tactics or some frameworks? Founders, you should do this. You shouldn't do this. You should avoid doing this.
I think for the team, what's worked for us has been, well, one has just been hiring people that we know and trust and that we've worked with. I've been really fortunate to be able to hire a lot of folks that I got to work with at Intercom. And so when they come in, it's just like people I know and trust, and I know how they work, and we know how to communicate, and we have similar kind of values and how we work. I think we also have done a really good job of just setting expectations for people at the company, that Equals is a place where you're coming to do your absolute best work. And in some ways, it's high pressure. It's, we expect a lot of one another. We expect that when you build something or when you ship something, it's like incredibly high quality. And we really only hire the best and keep the best. And so it just, when you're on a high performing team and you look around you and all you see are other incredibly high performers, it brings out the best in you. And
greatness rubs on greatness, right? Like,
but you as like the founder have to be like ruthless. You have to kind of be, you have to be willing to bet and hire people, but also, let people go if they're not performing, and do so quickly, because underperformers can, other people on the team will pick up on that and notice that. And so you just have to keep the bar really, really high.
And it's a difficult job. A lot.
But it's that's how you have to do it. I mean, if that's you have to decide whether or not that's the type of culture and space that you want to create. But I have found that if you have a really small, high performing team, that will outperform a large team of B players.
100%. So quick story. When I was at Product Hunt, I first of all, I was very fascinated by the fact that Product Hunt is such a small team. I thought always as an outsider, it's so big, like 100 plus, 200 plus people is working, maintaining that huge community and whatnot. Hell no. When I joined, I was, I think, 23rd higher in the whole flow. And I'm like, damn, that's fascinating. There are only like 23 people and they're all distributed, but they work in, we all worked in systems, like perfect systems. Like there's no, we're all in sync. I love that, I love working in small teams, like, just resonating with you. I think there is a chance to exhibit your talents and also learn from others very quickly. I hate I used to work at Fortune 500 companies, and I hated it so bad. You can't get creative. People will shut down just for no reason. There is no chance for failure. They always aim for, like, you to succeed, and I hate that. You have to try different things, and so love the fact that you are still. Equals is also, I think, under 20, if I'm not wrong, 15.
Yeah, we're about 20 employees.
Yeah, so maintaining that small team mentality is really high. Really, like, I love that mentality. If I were to build a startup in the future, for sure, it's always small set of people, ambitious, aiming high, and ready to fail, like take up the challenge and whatnot. What's next for Equals? Do you want to share, like, what you're thinking? You have some, I think, announcement, I guess.
Yeah, we've got an upcoming launch. We're launching a whole new component of Equals. So Equals, like I said, is kind of the first idea, the first kind of big bet with Equals, that it's connected, it's spreadsheet connected to all the places where you do your analyses, or that you pull your data from. But the next big bet for us is actually going aggressively after BI tools and trying to solve for the job of a BI tool. BI tools, in a lot of ways, they are born from spreadsheets. They're born from, like I said, trying to pull one specific job out of a spreadsheet, which is data visualization. And if you go and look in most companies and you look at the way that most analysts work today, they work in a really roundabout way. They start by building an analysis in an Excel or Google Sheets environment. They prototype it. They might prototype a dashboard. They share it across the company. They get buy-in. People are like, okay, great. Those metrics looks good. Then the analyst takes that and they spend the next 2 weeks throwing that up into Tableau, into a dashboard that then nobody goes and looks at. But if they do and something breaks, then they pull all that data back down into Excel and they figure out why it broke, and then they fix it back up in Tableau. And we kind of look at that. I mean, I've lived that workflow, and we look at that and we say, the only reason people do that is because the spreadsheet doesn't automate this. You can't build a dashboard in a spreadsheet. You can't build a fully automated dashboard in a spreadsheet. And so what we're launching now is dashboards. So
Very
you can
cool.
take with Equals, you can build auto updating tables, auto updating charts. You can build it from the comfort of a spreadsheet, and then you can throw it up on a dashboard.
Nice.
So there's a new type of tab within Equals that's called the dashboard tab. And then you can push that dashboard into different places. So you can push it into Slack, you can push it into email, you can push it into Google Slides. That's where we're starting. And that just lets you kind of disseminate information across an organization much more quickly.
I love that. Yeah, definitely going. Are you launching on Product Hunt, or are you just launching, generally?
We'll be on Product Hunt on the 24th of October, so next Tuesday.
Very nice. Awesome.
When we're recording. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll be there, rooting for you for sure. Last thing before we close. Again, we talked about courage. We talked about uncertainty. We kind of talked about, being ambitious. I think these are the qualities that make founders great. And where do Bobby find the psyche, or do you want to call, like, the process, the creative process, or how do you keep up your feet going every single day?
Yeah, it's hard. Don't believe me. There's days and moments when I doubt myself and I'm scared, and that is all you can feel. I'll tell you a story, which is and this is kind of something I just constantly come back to, and this is where I think I find my own kind of like perseverance and ambition. I remember the day, it was maybe 2 days before I was going in to pitch Andreessen for the Series A, and I was really nervous. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna go pitch the whole firm, and who am I to go and tell these great technologists, people that have backed some of the absolute best companies and founders on the planet ever, about an idea I have, and ask them for money. And I think there was a moment as I was kind of like sitting with my fear and my anxieties and my doubts, there was a moment where it just became really clear to me that this is actually like where I belong. This is what I've been working towards my whole life. This is like what I've been working on. This is like I've spent the last 10 years getting to this point. And I think as when you can remind yourself that actually what you're doing, like for me, it was like what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is where I belong. And this is who I am. And this is what I'm meant to be doing. Then it was like, all of a sudden it was like, no, actually, like I'm going to bring all these people along with me. Like, even though they're the best technologists on the planet, I am going to inspire them with the thing that I am supposed to be doing. And so for me, it's just reminding myself that I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And when I come from that place, then I have all this energy and this excitement, and I know it's right. And it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work, but if I can convey that energy and that excitement and that passion, then I think it's much more likely to work. And I think other people will be inspired, and hope that other people will be inspired to come along with me.
Wow, that's awesome. Man, you just gave me goosebumps. That was very, I think you have to have this self-talk, right? Like it goes two ways. One, it can bring you down or it can pump you up. You just have to like switch, and mostly we should rely on pumping us up, because we are our own believers. No one else would believe in us if we don't believe in ourselves. So I'm so glad you did that. And I think to your point, I just also want to acknowledge that I think Nawal quoted this many times. It takes 10 years to build a career. And that hit me so hard that I actually let go all the expectations of winning. And the way I work is I'll just give it a try, see if it works. Give it a try, see if it works. And to me, I want to give myself like that 10-year window, like the way you did, right? Like learn everything, squeeze as much as I can from other people, the best smart people out there, and gather as much knowledge as I can so that I can implement it on a year-to-year basis. And I feel, it didn't. You seem to be like people think about you as an overnight success, but you put so much work in the last 8 years, making those connections, building this, beautiful company, Intercom, and maintaining those relationships. And now it's your chance, right? So I just want to acknowledge that it requires a lot of patience and time to do something, and be good at it, right? Many people stumble starting day one. Hey, why am I not good? Because you didn't put enough time, or not doing enough beyond it. So
Yeah.
Bobby,
And then
this has been, yeah, so sorry.
the last thing I said, just build on that, and then just trust that at every step along the way, you're doing the thing that's right. You're doing the thing. You're in the place that you're supposed to be. Because I think a lot of people also say, I'm 3 years into this and it's not working, or I'm not as successful as I thought I was going to be, or whatever it is. And actually maybe you're just supposed to be going through the thing that you're going through, which is going to open up the thing that's going to happen for you 2-3 years down the line. And you just don't, just trust that it's happening for a reason, and you're going to, if you can learn from it and you can keep going, it's happening perfectly.
I love that. Yeah, trust, face uncertainty, and have that courage to take a shot. I think that's really important. Bobby, this has been so great. I thought you're going to drop a lot of tactical knowledge, but I'm so glad that you also like kind of shared your founder energy, which is, I feel, I can resonate with. I can't resonate with you about scaling a company, that I'm still learning from you, but I'm definitely kind of feeling very relevant when you say about, hey, things are going to be really bad at some days. You just have to show up, and you have to have that courage to like stand up again. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and inspiring again a lot of folks here who are listening, including myself. uh, Appreciate you for doing everything you're doing for the startup community, and making spreadsheets more sexy and more cool.
Hell yeah, of course. This has been really fun. I'm glad that, thank you for a lot of the probing questions and giving us a platform to be able to share and inspire others. Really grateful for that.
Absolutely. That's it, folks. Again, my job, my role is to bring folks like Bobby and make them share like these amazing stories and help you inspire. And I hope one of you take up the story of Bobby and like doing and playing long, right? Like doing more enough in being very patient and having that courage to try. So that's it for today. I'll be back with another episode, but stay tuned. More founders and VCs are going to be on the show. I'm excited for the next lineup. And till then, take care.